are not always balanced, it's sometimes skewed. So to address that problem, as a secondary the index we use B3 index or B plus 3 index. It's a bottom-up approach. So you should be able to understand the algorithm of the B3 index and B plus 3 index. In case of full of the node, by the way, B3 and B plus 3, what's the main difference? B plus 3 has a sibling point. Why? B3 index keep the index key entry anywhere. It's a balance, but it's anywhere. So if your index key is in the root, you can read the root, then access the data. Okay? However, if you have the really large index tree, sometimes it takes just one IO, sometimes number of levels of IO. So it's not really balanced. It's upper bound, it's not. So to address that one, all index key entry will be lower down in the leaf node. Then we can make the sibling pointer. So that is a B plus 3. The B plus 3 is currently being used in the most of the relational database system. And also used for many other applications, including file system, FAT. File allocation table, the FAT is not used right now. Before NTFS FAT, some of the file systems still use the FAT32. So that is based on they have the index. So that is based on the B plus 3 index. So that is the indexing structure. Then go back to the point. So after the designing, so we discussed about such a command Curie and the Curie processor, Curie Optimizer. The main purpose of the Curie Optimizer is we try to find the fast route to access the data. So if you can understand the details of that, think about when you travel, when you have the trip. So you are going to search the Expedia.com or the TravelerCity.com, then you try to find the cheapest one. That's your criteria to decide. Okay? Sometimes you can consider quality. So same thing. When we search the data, there are a lot of different ways. So we try to find the fastest route, fastest way. How can we measure? Number of IO, because it is the most expensive one. There are a lot of other resources are needed, but we consider only the number of IO. So for example, when you access the one table, there are different ways, like the linear search, brute force way. You can use the index, or you can use the ordered file. If your data is ordered, you can use a binary search, and so on. So for each, you need to understand what is the cost function. Then, not only the accessing the table, but when you join, there are different types of join. Nested loop join, single loop join, nested loop join is a brute force for each outer table, for each inner. And the single loop, you can use the index. You don't have to search all of the inner table. You can use the single. And what? Sort merge. First, sort the data, and match from the beginning. And there is another one, hash join, but hash join we didn't discuss a lot. But the hash is practically used a lot. Nowadays, the big data system use the hash, the function, to search the data very fast. So that is a join. Also, order of the join. So by considering this one, we can calculate the cost for each case, then select the lowest cost for the best route. Output of the such query processing is the explain plan. So the query processor use the explain plan to access the data. When you access the data, we are not going to directly access the hard disk drive file system. Instead, we need to always check the buffer. So another approach to speed up the query is using a lot of cache. Because of that, when you install any database management system, they require huge amount of the memory for better performance. So the Oracle, MySQL, any DBMS, they require the huge size of the memory. Okay, so then we also talk about the normalization. Normalization means what? Yes, one of the main problem of the database design is when we have the redundant information, it's a problem. So think about your student information is in the HR, or so department. and the payroll office. When you move out, when you move in the new apartment, you need to inform to all of them. It's really the tedious job, okay? And also, you are not sure whether your information is correct or not. Same thing in the database. The database really hates any redundant information. So actually, if you follow such a database designing process, probably you will not have such a redundant information. However, in the practicality, it is not easy. So to check whether the database design is good or not, which means redundant information or not, we can test with the normalization. So normalization process can be used to judge the database design. But also it can be used for database design. Think about unnormalization form is bag of information. You start with the first normalization. First normalization means attribute. So single attribute value. Okay, no composite, no nested. Okay, no composite, no nested, no multi-valued one. Thank you. So that is the attribute level. Then next thing is whole key dependency. When you have the composite primary key, so your non-prime attribute, non-prime means is non-key attribute should be depend on the whole key. If you have a partial key dependency, which means it's different meaning, okay? It's a redundant information. So whole key dependency. Then, if you find the transit, okay? So A to B, B to C means A determines C, okay? So no transit, the functional dependency. So that is the third normalization form. But sometimes there is a strict version of the third normalization form, which is called the BCNF. The BCNF actually go back to if A, B, C. C is part of A, that means A determine B, B determine A. So they are the same. So we don't consider transit in the third normalization form, but BCNF, this is also the transitive. So you can, what is the solution? How can you make the 1 to 2, second to third, third to BCNF? Segmentation. You can separate the attribute, then finally you can have the good news. If you, as I said, if you believe that you are normal person, anyone can do up to the third normalization form automatically. Because of that characteristic, in your programming class, you have used the database to keep the data. But I create the customer table, I create the item table, I create the transaction without considering any database design. Okay? So you believe that I'm very good at the database design. Why? Because the normal person can do up to the normalization form. And another good news is 90-95% of the database design require only the third normalization form. But the problem is always the rest of the BCNF or the special case. We didn't cover the fourth normal form, fifth normal form, any specialized normal form, which is a very rare case, but you need to take care. So once you encounter such a problem later, so then you can take a look back at the textbook or the Google, and you can understand. The fifth and the fourth and the fifth normal form is related to the join and the multi-valued one. So you are able to understand such a normalization form. It's a better quality of the database. Then, plus in addition to the component, the database management system has also backup and recovery, transaction management. So you should be able to understand that when you submit the query, what happened. Okay? Then when you read the data, the database always try to read the data from where? Buffer. Okay? And also when you update the data, that update will be on the memory only first time. Why? If you update the data directly to the hard disk drive or secondary storage, it will take a long time. It's very slow. So most of the DBMS support the default writing. Even though committed, but not applied to the database, it's the default writing. Problem, because it's in the memory update. So once you lose the power. For example, you lose the data. So we need to address that problem using the write ahead log. So when you commit the data, commit will be ended by writing the transaction action command to the log. So using this write ahead log journal, so you can do the instance recovery. There are two main operations for such a recovery. One is redo and another one is undo. Redo means it's supposed to be applied, but when you start up system and check the status, but it's not applied, so you need to redo. Undo means it's not supposed to be updated, but sometimes your data is updated, so you need to go back, undo. So this is a redo and undo operation. The redo and undo operation will be based on transaction. So database atomic, the part of the unit of the database operation will be transaction. Transaction is the number of operation, unlike the operating system. Operating system, some of the operating system consider the transaction, but mostly not. It's the atomic level of the operation is the mostly hardware level. So like the instruction level, but the database has the atomic level of operation is the transaction. The reason is that when you read the data, there are a lot of things happen. Read and write, read and write. So you can group by such operation as a transaction. Transaction is also all or nothing. If you commit, apply all of them. If you abort it, then the rollback all of them. This is another characteristic of the database. Then finally we talk about the concurrency control. In the concurrency control, we need to support the multiple transaction to access the data. So there are standards in the SQL 2, SQL 3 regarding to the transaction management as well as the concurrency control. So idea is this one. Basic idea of the concurrency control is transaction management is reader does not block the writer. Writer does not block the reader. Okay, you can do whatever do you want to. How? Using the isolation and plus multi-version control. So using the isolation, so when you are doing the transaction, you can be isolated. However, different level of isolation. So if you commit the data inside the transaction, then that will be read by another transaction. Or if you even uncommit data, so you can let the other transaction read the data. Different level of isolation. But some of the lower isolation level cause the problem like the synchronization problem. So you need to consider such a different level of the isolation. Okay. Then the transaction isolation and using the transaction management, so you can support such a concurrency control. And for one of the example of the concurrency control, we have seen the two-phase locking. I think within 10-15 minutes, quickly summarize all the topic that we have learned this semester. I think that will be helpful for you to prepare your final exam. In the final exam, we will cover after the midterm exam, which means the SQL database programming will not be part of the final exam. It's after that. Okay, just like the midterm exam, I think the 40%, there might be 20 questions. The 2 point for each question is 40 point is the multiple choice. The other will be the open-ended question. Okay, I think the 1, 2, 3, 4. I think the 4 confused with the operating system. One of them is the 4 question and another one is 5 question. Anyway, so 10 to 15 point for each. Okay, so do not expect the partial point to complete the answer for each. You should be careful. Okay, most of them you don't need the calculator. So even for example cost function, you can mostly calculate by yourself. But if you want to use the calculator, it's okay. But the cell phone will not be allowed. So cell phone should be turned off. So you need to bring your own calculator, which is analog based or the not connected, not the memory based. The calculator, simple calculator. Okay, will be accepted only. So then it will be 2 hours exam. Pretty much you have enough time to do your final exam. Then final exam is on the Wednesday, the 10:45, in this room. Then right after the exam, I'm going to try my best to grade your final exam. Then the evening of the Thursday, I will post the Wednesday. I will post your final the final exam score as well as the final grade. Okay. So before the final exam, if you have any issue or any problem on your grading, so you need to check with the Sule. Okay. I will not take care. I will not take care of any appeal or the problem after the final exam, except the final exam sheet. Okay. Then I'm going to open my office hour Thursday morning, probably Thursday morning, to check for you guys to check your final exam sheet. Okay. At that time, I will not take any appeal or the complaint or the question regarding to the grade of other. Only the final exam sheet. Then in the afternoon of Thursday, I will report your final grade to the registrar office. Then the Friday I need to leave for another teaching. Okay, so I will not be available during the winter break. So any issue, any concern should be completed by the next week. Then I think pretty much that is the plan for the next week. So and regarding to the final grade, so instead of applying the curve for each item or the final grade, I usually lower down the grading policy. So your grading policy will be changed. For example, you are weighted up. First thing, do not pay attention to the percentile on your canvas. That's not mine. That's automatically generated. So that doesn't consider weight of each grade. Okay. For example, if the quiz is 100 marks, that's different from the 100 of the midterm exam, right? It's a different weight, but the weight on the canvas doesn't consider such a weight. So just ignore. Okay. So some of the students complain on the percentile is 90, but my final grade is the 80 because of different weight. So I'm going to consider the weight. I'm not sure yet until the final exam score the details of the weight of each activity. Like the midterm maybe 20 to 25%, or the final exam also 25 to 30%, something like that. But it depends on the overall performance of yours. Otherwise, half of them will be failed in this semester. Okay, so I need to consider. So it may be slightly changed, but mostly the 20 to 25% midterm and final, and the 20 to 30% for the semester long project, and the other 10 to 15% will be attendance check as well as the homework. Okay, we didn't have the quiz. Regarding the quiz, we did a one-time quiz at the beginning of semester. I realized that I will not have the quiz. So quiz, ignore the point. It will be considered as the attendance only. Okay, I will not consider the point of the first the quiz. So ignore the point of the quiz, but it will be considered as the attendance. So including attendance and the quiz, it will be around the 15%. Then you will have the weighted total. Then based on the weighted total, I'm going to consider the kind of distribution. If all of you guys are very good, like the over 95, then all of you guys will get the A's, the final grade, but which will not be happen. So mostly it's around 70, 80, like that. Then at that time, I lower down grading policy, and to make the nice distribution curve. Mostly I'm expecting so do not complain I 1 point behind of. That may happen. Sometimes the point 001 is behind. I cannot change the grade because of that. Okay? Please try to do your best to get a better score in your final exam and final grading them. I think that you have the demo for your final phase of your project. Okay, so that's it. Any question? So on Wednesday, the next week, we will have the exam, this room, then we'll finalize the semester. And if there's no question, thanks so much, and we will see you on Wednesday next week.
Excuse me.
Yeah. I just finalize. Okay, one last question.
Small question. About the PowerPoint which you explained on the last lecture. about transaction currency.
This one? You mean this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it on the campus?
Supposed to be. No, you cannot find.
it.
Oh, I will upload. If not, I will check it. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thanks so much. We will see you on Wednesday.